How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Young Guns. I'm Austin Proulx with the Wilson Combat Shooting Team, joined by Guy Joubert today, and we are going to talk about little guns.
365s.
Yep.
We've got Austin's carry gun, which is a 365 XL.
Yep.
And then we've got some varieties of our WCP 365s, which is similar, but a little bit nicer.
Yeah, danced up a little bit.
Got them churched up a little bit. We Wilsonized them.
Yep.
This was a collaboration project in conjunction with SIG Sauer. They've been great to work with on the 320 project, the 365 project now. Our modules, which have been horribly successful for us. We just rolled out 2 new colors in a lot of the module options that we offer. We've got green and a gray module now.
Yep.
I know you like gray frames now, so you got a gray module for your 320. Probably gonna ask me for a gray module for your 365 here.
How'd you know?
I know these things.
You're
I
good.
can read minds.
You're good.
Your dad's a big fan of OD.
Big OD green guy. He got a black and OD green car to match his black and OD green guns. So
he bought a car to match his
guns.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
must be nice.
He's probably gonna want some OD green modules too.
I would
and
assume.
A lot of people were asking for some color options. We originally came out with the black and then the tan. Those were the first 2 colors that we did pretty much across the board in the 320s and the 365s. The gray and the green edition has been very successful for us. A lot of people were kind of waiting on those.
Yeah.
Now we have them. Let's talk a little bit about the WCP 365s. So on this particular WCP 365, we've done the action tunes to this one. The action tune consists of basically a gray guns trigger. We've worked with them in the past on the 320 guns. It's a straight trigger, kind of changes the fulcrum point, if you will. The geometry is different on this trigger face than your factory trigger.
Right.
So basically what that does is less force needed to break the shot. Also, we've done some spring enhancements internally and polished on a few critical parts in there to kind of smooth up the pull till you get to the wall, and then after the shot breaks, reset. The spring changes are chrome silicone springs, so they're gonna last for years of shooting. Yeah, good luck wearing those out. But really kind of takes the trigger to another level and gets it lighter. And a lot of people, whether they know why or not, think they want a super light trigger.
Right.
And this is by far the best way to get there on a 365 in general.
Agreed.
The Gray Guns does a great job designing their triggers, taking into consideration the geometry and the fulcrum point. But you know, you're used to this gun
with the factory trigger.
Try that thing out and let me know.
I know. I was shooting this thing yesterday.
You shot this, and you shot it well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No problem. Bringing that steel at 25 yards. And the reset is still really strong and really tactile, which I appreciate, because it seems like on a lot of polymer pistols, part of the trigger job is just inherently losing that tactile reset. And I like to know where that is for when I'm doing more precise shots, or when I'm shooting at speed. On more precise shots, I can find that wall, and that's when my trigger pull starts. It's a lot more conscious trigger pull. And when I'm shooting at speed, if I know where it is and I can feel it, I can be that much quicker on the reset. I don't have to go clear out to the beginning of the trigger pull and start over again. So it shortens it up by virtue of not having to just go do a full reset all the way out to the front and start from there. So yeah, I need to hit you guys up to get one of those dropped in here.
But we could take care of you.
I would have just started off with one of these, but you guys didn't sell those as a full package when I bought this. So.
And you got this gun way before the WCPs were probably even. They were probably in the works. I mean, we were in communication with SIG, but you were too antsy.
I was.
You couldn't wait.
I was excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. The trigger job on there makes a big difference.
It does.
Definitely.
Yeah. We've Wilsonized these things, churched them up a little bit from the factory options that are on the slide and the modules themselves. We've got front and rear X-Tac cocking serrations, slide top serrations on the top, If the slide's been cut for optic, the slide top serrations stop at the ejection port. If you have a model that is not cut for optics, the slide top serrations come all the way back to the rear sight. One of our modules from the get-go, they come in black, but we can swap those out to tan, green, or gray. Prior to shipping the gun, the Wilson combat sights, the battle sight, fiber optic front sights is what's standard on these. The optic ready guns do come with a little bit taller set of sights on them for basically co-witnessing with that dot. And then with the cover plate on, you've still got a really good sight picture that can be had if you want to run this with just the plate on it for whatever reason, concealability. Right. That was the only one in the gun shop, so you picked it up because you were tired of waiting for these to start popping up. They've been pretty hot, and they're kind of hard to find right now, but that might be an option. You're not really an optics guy, but that was the one that was there, so I'm getting my hands on it because one in the hand's better than two in the bush, right? Right. So a lot of features, a lot of options, DLC finish on the slide. A lot of people are moving to DLC finish. It kind of holds up better over time in Kydex especially. Yeah. You run your gun in a Kydex holster.
I do. I run pretty much everything in Kydex, whether it's for competition, carry, law enforcement classes on my level 2 holster, all that stuff. Yep. This particular pistol here, actually, I put a bunch of rounds through recently, and it was my first experience with the little RMR CC. And tell you what, this is an accurate little pistol for being a compact. Yep. There was a 8 or 10 inch plate at 25 yards, and it's got a little down zero circle in the middle of it, and I was ringing that thing like nobody's business, even with this little gun. And obviously the dot helps with that, but I was switching back and forth to the irons as well, and being able to see those through there. If you're focusing on the dot, you don't really notice them, but if you want to switch back to them, they're always available. So I was pretty impressed by this thing yesterday.
Somebody doesn't change their batteries out and their dot dies.
Right.
Those irons are there to...
Yeah, I don't know who would do that, but if somebody was afflicted with such negligence, then you would have you would have backups. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's why we set these up with the co-witness sights. If somebody wanted to, they could swap those sights out to smaller if they didn't like them in the window at all. We do offer the shorter sights. But on the optic itself, the cut, we've got 3 different cuts. One that accommodates the RMR-CC that is here, a second cut that accommodates the Shield RMSC and the SIG Romeo 0. And then the third cut will accommodate the Holosun 407K and the 507K optics. All of these have been pretty popular in the market in regards to what I would call subcompact red dot options, which are necessary for a gun this slim. I feel like, I mean, that thing would look pretty weird with an acro sitting on top of it.
So a little bit goofy.
Might throw off the timing even. So those were the optics that we chose to make sure that we had cuts to accommodate. I see that your gun from SIG is already cut for optic, but you're not running an optic on it.
Right.
But you have the option to do so if you wanted to. And then tell us about the little light laser combo that you've got out there.
Yeah, little blinky guy down here. That is a Streamlight TLR6. It's not a very powerful light. I think it's 120, 150 lumens, something like that. But it's small enough to not affect the overall profile of the gun. I mean, you see it basically stays with the same plane as the bottom of the trigger guard there, and doesn't even stick out past the end of the slide. So it doesn't add any size, but at least I've got something, for target identification, things like that. And it does have a laser on it, which I do sight in to match up with the sights at 15 yards or so. And I know that there will be a convergence point, and they'll intersect, and I don't use a laser that much. When I'm practicing with it, I'm paying attention to the sights. I remember when Crimson Trace first came out with their lasers, they had Rob Latham shooting around barricades and stuff, which is cool, but I'm not Rob Latham, so no, it's nice to have, but
he's the great one.
Right. I find that I don't use it all that much, but I guess it's nice to be there, but it's mostly just for the light and not to add much extra.
And I see that you've put one of our modules on your factory 365 XL.
course,
Talk a little bit about the difference between the factory module and our module in your opinion, and what enhancements the Wilson Combat 365 XL module has given you over the factory one.
So, for example, to relate it back to like the P320 modules, there's an actual size difference there. It's not just ergonomics and how comfortable it is in the hand. There's a size difference there, and that's one of the biggest benefits of the P320 modules from Wilson. With the 365, it's a small gun already. You know, the factory module is a small module, so there's no size issue. It's not like it's too big to fit your hands around. The ergonomics are greatly improved by going to the Wilson version, and being a 1911 guy myself, I'm really used to that grip angle. The factory 365 and 365 XL modules don't point as naturally for me as the Wilson modules do. So they're more comfortable. I wouldn't say they're smaller necessarily, because it's not an issue in that regard. But they're more comfortable, and they're definitely much more pointable for me. It's a lot more natural. There's still enough purchase area there for me to get my hand around. I don't have large hands, but there's just enough there, and it's familiar and comfortable compared to the factory 365 module or 365 XL module.
I know it's subjective when we talk about feel, but in regards to feel, I believe that on the 320 modules, we did go a little, it feels smaller than what the factory module was.
Less brick-like.
Yeah, and the ergonomics that our engineers designed into that module feel great, and it feels like it really increases the controllability on a 320. Now on the 365s, I feel like we kind of did the opposite. The 365 factory modules were pushing too small for my hands to where I couldn't get much of my support hand on the gun besides just basically holding my own hand and not touching the gun. And I feel, and I again, this is subjective, but I feel like our modules actually maybe went bigger than the factory modules in regard to the 365s, to where that opens up a nice pocket back here, even with my larger hands, to where I can get that support and that fatty part of my support hand palm into that hole and fill that void and really get a secure firing grip on the gun. So kind of two different principles. We went smaller on 320 and then went bigger on the 365s, which I felt was necessary to get a better purchase on the gun.
Yeah, it improves the ergonomics, but doesn't detract from the concealability at all.
No,
you know, it's not like you're making a longer grip. They disappear pretty easy. I'm not a big dude, and it's pretty easy for me to hide one of those appendix inside the waistband with just a t-shirt on.
Yes. My wife could conceal this thing on her hip easily, and she's tiny. So
itty bitty.
And she enjoys shooting these things. My 4-year-old actually pulled the trigger on one of these. I was holding the gun, but he stuck his finger in there and was pulling the trigger on this thing, and it was a controlled environment on our range. Don't freak out, because my 4-year-old's shooting pistols.
Jealous.
You can be jealous, but don't be freaked out. Like we're just letting him run around with handguns. But that was a fun experience, and he really enjoyed it. And Tressa was shooting it, and she enjoys them. They're great guns, easy to conceal. You carry on the hip, appendix. Great on ankle holsters because they are small. Ladies that have them, you know, in a holster in a concealment pocket on their purses. These guns are pretty much universal. I mean, big hand guys can shoot them. Small hand people can shoot them. They're not snappy like you're accustomed to seeing in smaller kind of subcompact guns. I don't feel like the controllability of the gun under recoil is very nice and very mild for a gun of this size.
I was going to mention that for being small pistols, they're incredibly shootable. Small guns usually are really hard to shoot.
They are.
These aren't.
No.
You know, they're, like you said, they're not overly snappy. They're accurate at distance on small targets, even with iron sights. The triggers, even from the factory, this one has no trigger work to it, and it's not a bad trigger, you know, but it's nice that you guys can do some work on that and make it even better than it is. And it's not necessarily going to like a 2-pound match trigger. It's just cleaning it up, shortening the travel a little bit, improving the reset, you know. making it a better trigger without making it unsafe for concealed carry. And they're just, for being small guns, I've been really impressed with them.
Yep.
Really impressed, especially since on the XL you can fit 12 rounds in there with a flush magazine.
Yes.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. And again, hats off to SIG Sauer and their engineers for the design of these things, the modularity of them. You can take any of the module sizes basically and interchange those. We have kind of the standard 365 on the one on the stand and these two guns, and then what SIG calls the 365X, which is the XL module, but with the standard barrel and slide combination. And then we move to the XL, which is the XL module with a little bit longer slide and barrel. So a lot of different ways you could set these up. Top ends are interchangeable on the fire control unit. The fire control unit, like the 320s, is the serialized item. So the modules can ship to your front door in any of the 4 colors. And you can kind of set these up however you want to. Now I will say this, if you have a standard 365 and you buy an XL module, you can put it on there, but you're gonna need to change up your magazines because those 10 rounders aren't gonna seat in this longer module. We've had some customers call in with that issue and had to explain that to them, and they understand and just buy 12 round magazines and go about it.
But they got more ammo now.
Yeah. So, but if you wanted to go opposite, you could put these on an XL, the standard modules, and your 12 round mags would seat in those, but you're gonna have a little bit of a gap there at the bottom of the module, but not a huge deal. Just more rounds on the person. Great guns, highly recommend looking into these, getting your hands on one. Look at our modules if you already have one. They're a drastic improvement, I feel like, to the gun, and it's an easy install. It's an affordable part that really enhances the shooting experience of these great pistols out of the box anyway.
So we've talked about the 365s, we've talked about the 365 XL a little bit. What about the macro?
Everybody wants to know about the macro. And if we're gonna do a module for the macro, our social media guys get hammered. We'll put a picture of an AR barrel out there and tag it with something, and people will be like, "Oh, is that a 365 macro module?" And it's like, no, it's not. And we're working on it. All right, so we are working on it. Be patient. Patience is a virtue. But we'll do pretty much all 4 colors: the gray, the green, the tan, the black. We will have basically a direct replacement for the macro module that SIG has that you can put on there with the 1913 rail that comes all the way out, flush with the end of the slide and the barrel. And then because we are who we are, we have to Wilsonize some stuff on the thing. So the second module that we'll have for the macro will be a shorter dust cover that has the traditional grooved dust cover, so that this light will be able to go on your macro module. You don't have to buy a new light to put on that module. And because it's shorter, you can put that on a standard sized P365, where with the current macro module, the dust cover comes out flush with the XL slide. And so if you tried to put this slide and barrel combination on it, you'd have dust cover sticking out past the end of your muzzle.
Looking goofy.
Can't do it. Nope. So we wanted to kind of address that gap, if you will, and allow the guys who have the standard 365s to be able to upgrade that package. Again, the modularity of these guns. They can buy a module and some 17 round magazines and put it on the gun that they already have, and that quickly increase the grip size and the capacity of rounds that they can carry in the gun. And we thought that there would there'd be a market for that.
No, I'd appreciate
There's a
that.
lot of these out there.
I'd probably get one of those.
Yep, and then you could do the same thing on your XL, and then the guys that have the macros can just straight swap the module.
Drop it in there.
Yep, drop it in, do that. We're excited about it. Thank you for being patient and asking if an AR barrel is a macro module. We appreciate the humor, but they are coming. But stand by, stay tuned, subscribe to our newsletters, follow us on the social media accounts to make sure you are one of the first ones to be aware that the macro module is here. We appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode of Young Guns with Austin Proulx and Guy Joubert. Leave a comment below and let us know what kind of topics or subjects you'd like the Young Guns to talk about in the future.